The opinions and views expressed in the following presentation do not necessarily reflect those of GCR Progressive Internet Radio Management, staff, or our affiliates.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair, Visionary Talk Radio on GCR Progressive Internet Radio. Here, rocking your world.
Welcome to Mo Banshee's Lair. I want to wish everybody a happy Halloween. We are going to have a special Halloween show on Halloween. Steve and myself and Deadeye, the owner of the station, we're going to do some stuff. And I really hope that everybody enjoys it. I'm going to play a little clip. Our guest is on the phone, and I'm hoping to God tonight that everybody can hear it. Can you hear her laughing, Nancy laughing? Please tell me you can hear her laughing, because if you can't,
I am laughing.
Nobody's saying anything, so I'm wondering.
I won't.
Yes,
I won't
they can hear you.
Now.
They can hear you. So we're good as gold. Okay.
Great.
Our guest tonight is Nancy Kersey, and before we start talking about her new book, I want to play a little something and hope you enjoy it. We're going to play it right now.
Yes?
I'd like to see Mrs. Stoddard, if you'd be so kind.
Mrs. Stoddard?
This is Collinwood, isn't it?
Yes.
And the mistress here is Mrs. Elizabeth Collin Stoddard, is she not?
Yes.
Then perhaps you'd do me the courtesy to inform Mrs. Stoddard that her cousin is calling and wishes to pay his respects.
Cousin?
Yes, her cousin from England.
From England? Oh, please, come in.
I'd be delighted, thank you.
Oh, would you like to wait in the drawing room?
Here would be fine, thank you.
Oh, well, I'll let Mrs. Stoddard know you're here.
Oh, madam, if you would, you may tell her that it's Barnabas Collins.
And that was the first time anybody ever heard of Barnabas Collins in the 1960s soap opera called Dark Shadows. And our guest tonight was Jonathan Frid's assistant, Nancy Kersey. Welcome to the Lair at last.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, so thank you for coming on. Jonathan Frid has become an icon in pop culture. He, I think, was one of the first actors to play a tragic vampire, a vampire who was reluctant and not happy about being a vampire. And you were his assistant and friend for many years. Could you tell us how this all happened?
Like many people listening, I'm sure, I was one of those who ran home from school to watch Dark Shadows. And Jonathan was one of the people that interested me into going into the theater. So many years later, he was appearing at a Dark Shadows Festival in Newark, New Jersey in 1985. And I wanted to go because he was performing there. And I got to go, and I was really taken with what was then his one-man show. He was developing the one-man show. And I was writing for a paper, actually for several publications in Philadelphia at the time. One of them was a theater publication. And I wrote a review/story about his one-man show and his wanting to get back into theater. And the editor sent him a copy of it. And someone got in touch with me, wanted to invite me to his apartment for a rehearsal that he had there like every week. And I went there, we started talking, and one thing led to another, and then he and his manager, Mary O'Leary, asked me to come work for them. I would work for him in one way, and then with Mary in another way. I worked with him in developing narrative for the one-man show he's putting together, that is, putting together the in-between stories, what would segue from one story to another. And then Mary, I would help her with direct marketing, selling the show to colleges and universities. So that's how I got involved.
Yeah, were you starstruck when you finally got to meet him?
I am not a starstruck person.
Oh, okay.
I just am not. I'm not. I was thrilled to meet him. Of course I was. I was intimidated in the sense that when he asked me to come work for him, I felt like a blithering idiot. I mean, yes, I'd been in the theater for a couple of years at that point, but certainly nothing compared to him. So I felt a little unworthy in that respect. But I wasn't starstruck, like, oh my God, it's Jonathan Frid, Barnabas Collins. No.
Yeah. I never had the pleasure of meeting the man, and I was a little older, and I started out watching The Dark Shadows because my old man, my father, he was home at that time, and I would come in home after school, and he'd say, "Hey, there's this show, I think you'd like it." He was hooked on it, and then of course the Vietnam War was raging, and my first husband was over there, and suddenly I lost track of the storyline, but it impacted an entire generation of kiddies. It was amazing, and he was actually on his way when he got the call for this. He was on his way to California to teach acting. And this kind of fell in his lap. You're writing a book called Remembering Jonathan Frid. Why did you decide to write the book?
Well, I'm actually just writing a chapter in it. The book itself is remembrances by numerous people. I think about 15 people who worked with Jonathan or knew him, and some are family members of his, talking about things that people wouldn't necessarily know, or about what it was like to work with him, what he was like as a person. And I think that idea came about after he died. I got lots of emails. So many nice people emailed me condolences after he had passed away, even though I hadn't worked with him for several years. And they said, I wish I knew more about him. And that's what sort of gave me and Helen Samaras the idea to maybe put out a book about him, collect stories from people. And I think people will be very pleased. It's a very unique book. There's not been anything like it. There's very rare photos. There'll be a lot about him as a person, what he was like. And his life ambition was to be a teacher. That's what he wanted to do. Wanted to go into the theater, get enough experience, to be a good teacher, and then find a nice college campus and teach. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up a little bit, but it's okay. He was always very. He seemed like a very shy person.
He was. He really disliked the celebrity aspect of fandom. He liked the fans, but if you have fans, you have celebrities, so you couldn't really have one and not have the other. But he was not comfortable with it, and lots of reasons, because when you're a celebrity, you become something in people's minds that you really aren't. And he was somebody who did not like phoniness. He didn't like fakery of any kind. And he didn't want people thinking that he was somebody he was not. That bothered him.
The book is going to be coming out soon, right?
Yes. We had held up the book because I was waiting for one particular article from Canada, from another assistant of his who worked with him and also on a play. And the fall, I said it would come out in the fall. Well, the fall ends in December, so yeah, it should be coming out soon. It's going to be going to the layout person for the final put together next week sometime, and then it'll just be a matter of sending it to the publisher. It shouldn't be long. I'm not going to make a guess, but it shouldn't be long. And also, there's a jonathanfrid.net website that's going to be going up in the next week or so.
Yeah, let's just say it's going to be on Amazon, right?
It'll be on Amazon. You can do a direct. It's Lulu Press, and you can order directly from Lulu Press. But all that information is going to be available. If people go to jonathanfrid.net, they'll be able to get all that information. I'm going to put it everywhere I can.
Let's talk about him. I mean, this guy was he was the Royal Canadian Navy, so he was a serviceman, and then he went to the Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. What did he like better? Theater, television, movies?
The stage. He really didn't like television. He didn't like making movies either.
I've read, I only know what I've read about him, that he didn't like the constant changing dialogue with the day-to-day grind of the soap opera. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. He had, and I realized this when I was working with him. He had dyslexia. Okay. And it's not something he ever said, but I could tell because I have it myself, so therefore I can see it in other people. And so reading could be difficult, and learning lines was difficult, especially learning change lines was difficult. He couldn't, comprehend it as fast as everyone else. But he wasn't difficult. Somebody. Yeah, that's very difficult
for an actor.
Yeah, sure.
Any actor. Yeah.
Right. But see, he wouldn't ever say, well, I have trouble reading. He would, of course, back then people didn't identify that they had this, that, or other problem. And when I told him that I had a problem understanding math because of my dyslexia, he said, well, you've got to get past that. He said, you've got to knuckle down and do it. So he wasn't somebody to say, oh, well, that's because I have la, 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 la. He believed that whatever problem you have, you've got to find a way to get around it.
Well, that's why they were the greatest generation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think so. He was somebody.
Yeah, he liked that generation. No excuses, just get it done. There's no. Yeah.
And if you commit to something, commit to it. And once he committed, he was very hard to get to commit to something. Once he did, though, he was in it for 150%.
Right. Let me ask you. He did Arsenic and Old Laces, one of my favorite plays, and Larry Storch was his sidekick in that. He played the psycho brother for the Brewster family. How did he like doing comedy?
He was actually perplexed with it. He had done a lot of comedy before that. I mean, earlier in theater, before Dark Shadows came along, he did a lot of comedy. But he was a little concerned about being in a comedy and being this monster. And eventually, the director, even myself, told him, but what's funny is you're being in it and what you're doing. So just go with it. Just trust the lines. And that's what he did. And that's what he learned to do. He said he learned a lesson in that play to just trust the dialogue. And he did, being the big heavy in the middle of this comedy.
He, like a lot of the greats that, Karloff, even Christopher Lee to a great extent, they made their mark in, let's say horror, the vampire, that kind of thing. but they didn't care for horror. Lee is always very careful to say, I made fantasies. What was Jonathan Frid's feeling about vampires and making that kind of a show?
Well, he thought the occult and vampires was silly.
Right.
He didn't like horror films. He liked ghost stories, but he wasn't one of those kids who would go spend their dime going to movies, seeing horror movies. He didn't know who Christopher Lee was.
Right.
I mean, he had a faint idea of who it was. He had some idea because he was compared to him, but and he knew he was an actor and other things, but he really wasn't aware of all that Christopher Lee did. I mean, and he knew Karloff because he saw Karloff on stage in Arstic and Olays, believe it or not.
Right. Oh, cool.
And that, but Jonathan, of course, I know you've read this. When he was doing The Vampire, he worked for a reason, something to, I guess, what's the word I want? To understand about the vampire was the vampire had a physical need and had certain requirements to stay. Yeah, he had a hang-up.
I
needed
saw
blood
him in
to
an
live.
interview, yes. And he says it's a guy with a hang-up.
Yeah, he needs blood to live. He needs it. I mean, and there's certain things he has to do in order to stay alive. And we all, the self-preservation, and that's what he went for that. I mean, he didn't think about creepy, or he said he did some research on vampires just because he didn't know much about them. And but he just looked. He could have been the next Vincent Price, and that they wanted to groom him for that. He told me that they wanted to groom him to be like the next Vincent Price, but he had no interest in doing that. Just none.
Yeah.
And he would rather turn down the work that he didn't want than do it.
Right.
And he really didn't want to be any more famous. He told me that one reason why he didn't push to do more films, besides not liking filmmaking so much, was that he didn't want to be any more famous than he had been with Dark Shadows. Because it was taxing on his family, and it was just a general nuisance.
It is. You look at these young stars now, Depp and all them, they can't even go out to eat someplace without being mobbed. And if people really check out Jonathan Frid back between 1966 and I'm going to say 1975, this guy, I mean, anytime he appeared someplace, thousands of people showed up. I mean, this guy was mobbed.
Well, he was offered...
Let's try it. Okay, let's see if we go. And yes, we are back live. Okay, you can hear me, I think, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can you hear Nancy now?
Can you hear Nancy now? Nancy is speaking. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, they can hear you now too. Okay. So I have no idea where we were when my power went out.
We were talking about what he thought about his work. Was it horror? Was it whatever? And and I was saying not really. He saw it more of in a psychological way. That's how I identified with it.
Yeah. He seemed, when they first started out with the Barnabas thing, they had him as a killer, right? I mean, he was a nasty dude when he first came back. Was it his idea? Did he ever talk about how Barnabas evolved? Because as the series went on and they realized everybody really liked him, it kind of changed.
Yeah, he told me that he was actually going to go back out to the Old Globe. They had invited him to go out to the Old Globe Theater in San Diego to do a season there, and then he found out that he was that he was going to be that the show was going to continue, that it was going to go into the past. I think it was about I want to say the summer or so, because the season goes from the regular season goes from September through May.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Up until he got on the show, they were going to cancel this show. They were already, talking about just killing it. So when he got on there, he kind of saved it.
Are you Right, I'm having difficulties here. I'm sorry. Hold on, let me check something.
That's okay. Okay.
I'm actually being interviewed. That's right.
That's okay. Hello, everybody.
I'm sorry. I'm back.
Okay. When he got this part, they were actually going to cancel the show, right?
Well, not cancel it. They weren't pleased with it. They weren't pleased with it. Cancel it. They weren't pleased with the stuff. With the show, rather, with the ratings so much. So the ratings weren't cancellation material, but they wanted better. And that's when the vampire thing came on. The show really wasn't about to be canceled.
Right.
I mean, it's actually a myth more than anything now. And I only found that out years later.
I watched him when he put his hands in the cement for the in California when they had him put his hands in the cement. Was he like OCD?
Sort of, yeah.
yeah. I mean, he pretty basically said, "Okay, get this shit off of me."
Well, he was also not well. I mean,
right.
No, he wasn't. Like, he just. From what the people I know who were out there, with him, it just wasn't. He just wasn't as cognizant when he was back at the festivals as he was earlier. He just wasn't the same. He wasn't the same person. After about 2007, he just wasn't. He was very, very different. He was very different. And it's one reason why I didn't like working with him on the website anymore and stuff, because he was just very different. But
he got grumpy.
Much more difficult. He just wasn't well, and he didn't take. He deliberately did not take medication that he was prescribed because he didn't want to prolong anything. If he felt that if he was getting old, he was getting old, and he wasn't going to prolong anything.
Right. He just seemed like I'm here. I did my job. I did what I was going to do, and I want to leave on my own terms. Yeah. He also seemed like he could get grumpy, but I mean, he was 87 when he passed away, which is no small feat. I mean, our bodies just are not meant to sustain us like that anymore.
No, they're not. And with him, he just got tired.
Right.
He was just tired.
Right. He loved to read the newspaper, right?
He read the newspaper.
He loved it. From what I've heard of him, he would go through the newspaper and he loved to read the news to keep abreast of what was going on in current events. Am I dating myself? That's what we always called them, current events.
Current events. He did. He liked to know what was going on. He was very conversant in politics, American politics, history. You could talk to him about anything. I mean, he was one of those people, which is why I liked being with him so much, not working. He could talk about 50 things in an hour.
Right.
And I liked that, and I usually drive all my friends crazy because I like to do that. He was one person I could do that with, so we could not drive each other crazy. Because he could just talk about anything, everything. He was an old movie fan, loved old movies.
Oh,
Things Gone with the Wind was the greatest thing, and Betty Davis, Katharine Hepburn. He got to work with Katharine Hepburn. That was a big thrill.
Mm-hmm.
And so But anyway, getting back to your original question, just when he was older, he was just a much different person in the latter years. I mean, it's unfortunate people new to the festival only got to know that side of him, which could, could go one way or the other in a moment's notice. That really wasn't the way he was. As I said, he was just going downhill on a decline, and he wasn't in the market to put the brakes on it because he saw his mother in bed. She was in bed for I think 5 or 6 years, bedridden, and just being kept alive with medication. He said he didn't want that. So when he started
I don't
having
want
problems,
that either.
Yeah, well, he didn't either, and that's what what happened.
Yeah.
What happened with him, and as I said, it was just I think when you lose your independence, it can make you obstinate. I see that with a relative of mine right now. It can change you because you don't have your independence anymore, and people relying on people to take care of you. It can change you.
Yeah. And being told you're wrong or being corrected, and it kind of takes, I know when I went to Disney World, because I have lupus and MS and all, so we went for, Halloween in 2009. My daughter and granddaughter took me, and so we walked from 8 in the morning on Halloween day till 2 a.m. in the morning, Halloween evening, all around in these costumes. I was Grandma, the Neverbug was Red Riding Hood, and my daughter was the Big Bad Wolf. And it was like 90 some odd degrees out there, and I ended up spending the rest of our vacation in a wheelchair.
Oh, gosh.
I felt horrible because,
Sure.
it just wore me down. And my daughter said, look, there's no way you're going to do it. You got to bite the bullet. It's not like you're being lazy. So I said, okay. So, but it is. It sucks having to give up some of your independence like that, and especially when you've had girls sending you pictures of themselves naked.
I think it's a very hard thing, and the book goes into that. Towards the end of Jonathan's life, and some of the difficulties he faced. And one thing about the book too, I wanted people to know what he was like for most of his life, not the last 5 and 6 years of it.
Yeah,
because
that's important.
He's a very different person.
What do you want people to remember him most for?
For being a good guy.
He was a good friend to you, huh?
He was a good person. He was a good man. He was a very funny man. He was one of the funniest people I've ever known in my life. And he was just a very, very good, decent person. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I'm going to play a clip, and hopefully, and we were discussing this when I was trying to get everything back up here, and I think Jonathan Frid is hexing us because we're talking about him. So I'm going to play a clip that was one of his favorite monologues in Dark Shadows, and it's an exchange. Yeah, it's an exchange between Barnabas Collins and Burke Devlin, and in this exchange, they're both talking about, I believe, Victoria Winters, and they both have aspirations of marrying her. Of course, Barnabas is going through, I think, this change with Julia Hoffman, where he's getting these needles to make him human again, and Burke doesn't know. He just sees him as the contender for the crown, so he's the enemy. So I'm going to play this, and hopefully it will work.
It's okay.
I thought it was one of the funniest stories I ever heard. Excuse me. Barnabas, you're just in time for one last drink before they close the place. Thank you. What'll it be? Brandy. Brandy. And another one of these. Let's sit over here. You seem to be in the midst of a celebration. Oh, not really. I just feel rather good. Well, that could be reason enough for a celebration. What is it that makes you feel so good? The future. Yes. Let's call it the future. Well, I'm glad to see you brimming with such optimism. Your enterprises must be going well. Oh, this has nothing to do with business. No, this is purely personal. Personal? Well, I won't intrude by inquiring. Oh, I wouldn't discuss it with you now. No, it's not quite definite yet. Oh? Then there's a chance that this bright prospect of yours might not come into fulfillment. Well, nothing is really ever positive until it actually happens. Thank you. And then perhaps your celebration is premature. Perhaps. But I was feeling so good, I didn't want the moment to go by unnoticed. What about you, Barnabas? What about your prospects? Perhaps we share something in common. There's the possibility that very soon I, too, will have something to celebrate. Oh. Am I to be included in your celebration? I assure you it would be nothing without you. Barnabas, I wonder about something. Well, what is it? I wonder whether we really like each other. Why do you wonder that? Well, the way we talk to each other, the way we intimate things without actually coming out and saying what's in our minds. As if we're playing a card game for very high stakes. Well, what an interesting observation. And an interesting simile. A card game. I'll tell you something. I think of our relationship more as a duel. Two superb swordsmen with highly sharpened blades. You thrust, I parry. I thrust, you parry. I prefer my simile to yours. Why? Because mine is merely a game, which one either wins or loses, depending on the cards. And mine? Well, yours seems to be a matter of complete desperation. Life or death. To lose a duel with you would be to lose everything, including one's life. But isn't that the purpose of a duel? If a duel is necessary. Is it? Well, that can't be determined until the sword is in one's hand. But you make me sound so evil when all the time the stakes in a card game could also be life or death. I think we played ourselves into a stalemate. A temporary one. Shall we drink then? To either the deck of cards or the sabers, whichever it's to be. Well, that certainly is worthy of a toast. You know, Barnabas, you interest me enormously. As an opponent? Well, not necessarily. I'd like to get to know you better. Know me or about me? Knowing about you is something you make rather difficult. If you remember, I tried that the other evening. And all I could really learn was the fact that you once lived in London with a cousin. What was his name? Bradford. Niall Bradford. Yes. Yes, Niall Bradford. Now, how could I forget an unusual name like that? I think he's getting ready to close up. Thank you for the brandy. Thank you for playing the game.
Now, there's something very interesting about that little clip. In that clip, Burke Devlin and Barnabas Collins are having a duel of words, and towards the end, Burke Devlin says, I want to get to know you better. And he says, Barnabas says, you want to know me better or you want to know more about me? And in real life, it kind of parallels with his own feelings of keeping his life very private.
Yes.
I've seen him in interviews and that kind of thing, where he was interviewed. His personal life was gold to him. He didn't share a lot about it. When his mother was alive, he did, talk about her. And in his one-man show, Friddlesticks, he talks about the phone bit where she's calling his answering machine, and she gets the operator involved. It says, "He's there, I know it." And he didn't share a lot about his family.
I think that all goes back to his being the youngest of three, and when you're the youngest, everybody's in your business because you're the youngest. And I think that he never got over that. And he told me that his brothers would want him to do things, with him, and they were, like, as I said, in his business. And I just think after that kind of left him somewhat traumatized, because he could be very secretive about stupid things, like, what he was having for dinner. I mean, just that way, I think, because he didn't like people having control over his life. And I think that's just how it manifested itself. And the thing is, too, being famous, other people have control over your life. Or, they can invade it, they can make up things about you, they can whatever. You do whatever they want.
Yeah, I know. I tell people, if you want to know anything about me, just ask me. Don't listen to what other people say, because you're getting their side of it, what they see. And it's hard. Older brothers, I have one older brother, and his favorite thing to do with me was my old man would send us into the attic to clean up the tools that my father would put up into the attic and stuff. And my brother's favorite hobby was to take the stapler gun and shoot me in the arse with it. So I definitely know how big brothers can really get to you, Are you still there? Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I know the feeling. When he retired, he did the one-man shows. Why did he stop doing the one-man shows?
Why did he stop completely, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he came back. He retired in '94 and came back. Well, Helen Samaras, a longtime friend, a business associate of his, wanted to do a charity. And what she did was, she asked me if I would ask him if he'd be interested in doing a one-man show charity at Hofstra University, which she lived near, for one of her charities. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten what charity it was. And he said yes. And he said yes, this was in 1998. And I told him I would produce it, and then he did a couple of them. He did about 4 or 5 of the charity shows in the U.S. And then he did Mass Appeal in Canada, and I launched the website because I figured that'd be a good way for him to put one-man shows, put material on the website for fans to access who couldn't see, and a project for him.
Right.
And that went along well, and I was trying for a couple of years, getting to come back to the festivals, to let him talk about his website, which he really loved. I finally got him to come back about 2007. Got him to come back to put out DVD, put together DVD, which I'd always wanted to do. Put together DVD, and I said, "Well, the fellas, you're going to have to come to the festival," and he came. And then it became a project for him right up until he died. Well, obviously he didn't come back after he died. But
Right.
you know what I mean. He kept
Yes,
up with
yes. Yeah. You're a producer, and what does that mean exactly?
it. Well, it could mean different things, of course. When I produced Jonathan's show, what it meant was I took care of all the paperwork. For example, he was a native of Canada. He never became a U.S. citizen, and he'd given up his green card, so I had to fill out paperwork for him to come and do the show, what it was for, and all that sort of thing. That also means setting up, making sure the venue has insurance, making sure that the venue has the ability to run equipment that you're going to need for the show. It also means going in and hiring people if you need to, getting equipment if you need to, and then the content of the show, making sure that all the material that's being done, people are paid for it, or you get permission to do it, perform it for free, and also producing to me, assisting with the material of the show, what gets done. Jonathan was very generous about that, in that he didn't mind, in fact, welcomed second opinions about the material that was going to appear in any show, because a lot of the shows were cobbled together. The benefit shows cobbled together different stories, and so what was going to be in there, and so that's what my role was as a producer, and also running the sound checks, making sure that he's happy, making sure if he's got people to sit back there with, making sure, just making sure that everything goes well. When you're a producer, you're basically in charge of everything. Everything that goes on,
the bills, right?
regarding the show. Yeah, I mean, I did it for charity. I mean, Jonathan got a stipend to cover his expenses, and my expenses were covered. We both did it for charity. I mean, I had done producing work in New York. I mean, professionally, did that for many years. It can mean different things, but basically it means that you're in charge of making sure that a lot of things go right, and if it doesn't, it's your fault.
Right, exactly. You take the fall for it, and yeah, I do investigations for charity, and I know how that goes. I never take anything. I do every dime that's made goes right to the charity, and that's what's really, really important. Let me ask you, who was his favorite actor? Because I saw that he liked Hardy. What was his name? I can't. I've got it.
Laurence Olivier.
Laurence Olivier was his favorite.
Laurence Olivier. He liked Laurence Olivier. He got to meet Laurence Olivier when he was in England. Laurence Olivier was his favorite actor of all time, and his two favorite actors.
He liked the guy who played Churchill. What is it? Edward Hardy. He played Churchill. Because I don't
remember that, but that could be. I mean, that could be. I don't remember him saying that to me, but that doesn't mean he didn't. Certainly.
Well, who was his favorite actress?
Betty Davis and Katharine Hepburn.
What is it about Betty Davis? There's so many of them that love Betty Davis, and I don't get it myself.
Is that someone you don't get?
That's the one I don't get.
He adored her. He liked redheads. All the actresses, it's funny. They were all redheads. Hepburn, and they liked Bette Midler. He liked her singing act. He saw her in some show that she was doing, and he just thought she was great. But no, Betty Davis, he liked her. But he liked a lot of the movie character actresses, too. He was very into all the old movies. But as far as I'm thinking of, I think he liked James Mason, too.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, so let me ask you, did Seizure cure him of movies? That movie Seizure, did that kind of cure him of wanting to do movies?
Yeah, it was. I saw the script, it was different. The script was the original script was much different than what was actually shot.
Right.
Yeah, the experience of making Seizure. I mean, he thought it was an interesting movie. The psychological aspect of it was interesting, and it was. But as he told me, so many of the people were on drugs on the set, and that was not a good experience. Some of it was funny. He was friends with the guy. The main guy is a real jerk. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. And he was Christina Pickles. He was very good with Christina Pickles. And in this scene in Seizure, where they're running around the house, supposedly running for their lives, he falls down once. And the reason why he fell down was because he was laughing so hard. Christina Pickles could do an imitation of the Queen that would make him laugh so hard he would fall down. And she turned around to him, or yelled at him in that sequence, running around the house in Seizure, "Hurry, Philip, hurry!" And he fell down. She kept calling him Philip, and that just made him collapse. So that's kind of a funny story about Seizure. Yeah, movie making. He never said, well, that didn't want to do another one. Between that and Paramount, that when he was in the movie with Shelley Winters, Devil's Daughter, that was also supposed to be different than what it wound up being. And I think he just didn't like to sit around and wait, because the movie business is sit around and wait. And some actors do well with it, and some others, like myself, do not. And so that was like his foray into it, and he was fine with it. He liked the movies that he did. He liked them, but the movie making process itself just wasn't for him.
I talked to a lot of actors and actresses, and they all say the same thing. It's a really hard way to make a living, and the downtime is scary. Jeremy Irons, he did that remake of Lolita, which I personally liked the original much better. I don't need to see two people having sex to figure out they're having sex. I've got 3 kids. I know how it works.
You get it, yes.
I figured it out. The first time I was pregnant, I said, I think that's how I got pregnant. Anyway. He
didn't like that kind of thing either. Not because he was a prude, because he certainly wasn't. Right. But he believed that sex was something beautiful and should be celebrated.
And it doesn't look beautiful in a movie. It never looks beautiful. But Jeremy Irons had said when they gave him the part of Lolita, he said, I want $5 million because I'm not going to work for another 5 years. And he was right. Nobody would touch him for 5 years. And then he started breaking out of it because of that part. But, I like Jeremy Irons. I like him. He is a great activist. He's trying to change the world. He's a wonderful guy, but 90% of his movies are soft porn. I mean, he's always getting it on with somebody.
You just made me think of, when you said that, for some reason, you made me think of another actor, Jonathan, like Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Yes, Tom Hanks. And, he's got a new movie coming out, Saving Mr. Banks. It's about Walt Disney trying to get the Mary Poppins movie made, and he's got the author of Mary Poppins there, and she's, he finally realizes who Mr. Banks was, and that's why it's called Saving Mr. Banks. And she was, a proper English, and didn't didn't want Mr. Banks and Mary Poppins to be turned flippant, because in the end, and I think anybody who's seen Mary Poppins understands, she wasn't there to save the children. She was there to save Mr. Banks from everything, And if anybody can get to Broadway, see Mary Poppins on stage. It is absolutely stunning. It is great. And when she flies away, you actually break into tears because she's flying away on you. She literally flies over your head. It's wonderful. I loved it. We loved it. We couldn't get enough of it. It's a wonderful musical and so entertaining. But anyway, Jonathan, Frid, when you were producing things and being his assistant, were you there when he was still watching his weight? Because I read that he would actually keep a record of calories when he was doing Dark Shadows, because you can't get heavy on film, because it shows up if you gain weight. Did you ever hear about that or witness that?
Oh, I saw it. I saw the
note
when he had it in a Foot Locker that he had in his storage room. We were going through it, and he had still kept he kept calendars from all the years that he had, just reminding him of stuff that he did. And I saw where he had kept notations about what to eat, and also for energy's sake, keeping the calories down. He was the son of a nurse, and so he was health conscious in that sense. And I mean, he had vegetables for lunch and dinner. It was nothing for him to have 2 or 3 different kinds of vegetables.
Right.
And he did that all of his life. I mean, he got a little heavier in the 80s, but not. He wasn't fat. He was just heavier, and then he skinnied back down again in the 2000s.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about growing older is we don't burn calories like we used to. And he was also a smoker, right? And he smoked, but once he was done with Dark Shadows, I read that he stopped smoking because he wasn't worried about gaining weight.
Yeah, quit cold turkey.
Yeah, it can be done. My husband did it after smoking for something like 20 years, 25 years, and I met him and I said, look, that ain't happening here, so he just stopped dead. He knew a good thing when he saw it, so it can be done.
Said that most of us don't have to get heavy if we don't want to. It's harder, of course, when you're older for the reasons you said, but, that means that you have to, if you don't want to get heavy, unless you have medical reasons, that you do, you have to make sure that you get more exercise. And he would walk, he would go upstairs rather than take the elevator, things like that.
Yeah. He seems like he was a very nice man.
Yes, he was a nice man. He had a quick temper, that's no secret. But just as quickly as he could get angry, he'd get over it. But he was a nice man. I mean, he was a good man. He was a man who was always root for the underdog. And when he was growing up, his family was well off. And during the Depression, some people would come. They knew if they came to the Frid house around dinner time, knock on the door, they would be given some food. Right. And so the brothers all took turns getting up from the table, and the cook would prepare packages for when people came to give them packages of food. They would come to the door and they would hand them food.
Oh my goodness.
And his family was involved.
Because it was the Depression.
Yes, it was the Depression, exactly. Mm-hmm. But his family, and his will, the bulk of his estate went to charity. Mm-hmm. And that's just. His parents were that way, and he was that way. He always gave to charities throughout his life.
He was cremated, right?
Yes.
I'm going to take a long shot here and say it's because he didn't want people going to a grave and turning it into a shrine.
Well, partly that, but the other thing is he didn't see any sense in spending all kinds of money on a dead person.
See, I think the same way. My mother died, and it was almost $9,000 for a one-day thing. And I'm thinking she'd have a goddamn heart attack if she knew how much we were spending.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't see any sense in that. I mean, why? I mean, and then go into the earth, take up more room. You can only bury so many people into the earth. I mean, he didn't see the logic of it at all. I think the shrine, the extra, I mean, that may have figured into it, sure, but the other thing was just the practicality. Why not give that money that you're going to spend on being dead to a charity?
Right. Because when I was I've only attended one of those conventions, and it was last year in July, and that's when I bought a couple of his tapes and little things. And I said to his nephew there, I says, "Oh my God, doesn't his family want any of this?" And he says, "No, but you told me that the orders for the estate from him were sell it all, give it all to charity, right?"
Yeah, but it is true. I mean, you know, your family has scrapbooks and that, but they're not going to sit around and look at all those one-man shows. I mean, there were lots of those tapes. They're just not going to do it. Now, I've been asking people who got them if they want to exchange. I started making copies of them for my own. I didn't have time to finish all of it. So, I'm telling people if they bought them, tell me what they have, and I'll exchange with them what I have. Because I'd like to get as much of it as possible. You never stop to think to make copies of all that for yourself.
Right.
And I would. So anybody who bought tapes, you know, hit me up.
Yeah, I have the one of the ridiculousness, and then the one of Edward Hardy playing Churchill, because his nephew said it was one of his favorites. He loved him playing Churchill.
Okay.
And you know, and then you just sent me, I think, the Arsenic and Old Lace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, he was a good, solid actor. Whether or not he understood the business from the concept of the person watching, the you know, what are we? We're like customers. You know, he understood it from his putting out a product, doing the best he could. I don't think he ever quite got it from the customers' idea. From go ahead.
No, he didn't. He didn't. I mean, you know, he knew that he was appreciated and liked. He never understood why. He knew that he was. He didn't understand why. I mean, because he didn't see himself as all that.
Yeah, you're a remarkable person, and can you tell them again where to find this book?
The book will be, what they can do, if they want information about the book now, well, I'll tell you what, look, jonathanfrid.net, N-E-T, jonathanfrid.net, not .com, .net. I'm going to have information up there. Check on it in a week. The book will be out certainly in December, maybe earlier, but to keep checking jonathanfrid.net for information.
Okay, that's cool. And it should be out hopefully by December, right?
Yes.
So that,
it will be. Oh, it will be. Yes. I
cool,
promise.
Cool.
I promise the fall ends in December. So yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you going to autograph any of them?
No. I mean, I'm only one of the writers. There's lots of writers in there. I mean, I'm just one of them. I mean, if somebody wants me to, sure. I mean, anybody in the book, you know, if they want the people in the book to autograph them, you know, some of them live in Canada, so you're not going to get that. But, you know, sure, if somebody wants me to sign something, I will, too. And I'm sure Helen will. And, yeah, lots of great stories.
Who all is contributing to this book? Who are the
writers?
Okay,
off the top of my head. Okay, one of the studio kids, Jeanette Morawski, Dean Holland, who did Mass Appeal with Jonathan in Canada, and also was an assistant for a year or two. Laura Parker, Marie Wallace, Guy Haynes, who worked with Jonathan quite a bit at the festivals. He has a really good piece in there. Michael Culhane has a nice article about Jonathan. Stuart Manning, who was involved with Night Whispers. Yes, I said Helen Samaras. Donald Frid is writing the forward, and he has a piece in there. And right off the top of my head, those are the people in there. It's really going to be remarkable.
Yeah, I've talked to Laura, I've talked to Catherine, I've talked to Chris Pennock, I've talked to Marie Wallace. Jerry Lacey, everybody had wonderful things to say about him. He was solid on the set, and it was business, but nobody said anything negative about him at all. They all said he was a good actor and good to work with.
Yeah, he other than the frustration of being in a scene with him and him not remembering a line, apart from that, but see, Jonathan believed when you're at work, you behave yourself. And one of the articles in the book is written by an actor named Rand Bridges, and he did. He was at the Old Globe Theater when Jonathan played Caliban and Lord Capulet in Romeo and Juliet, and he said Jonathan was the same. So many of the people in the cast were young. They were in Southern California. It was the 60s. They all did crazy things, got arrested for drugs, and that he says Jonathan never got into any trouble. He said he behaved like an adult. He just was always straightforward. Jonathan's assistant during the show, and then later longtime friend Nancy Brown Lenahan, she didn't really know what to write, but she's contributed a lot of articles, and I have a As Told To piece in there by her. We've become friends, and I talked to her on the phone, and she and Jonathan were very, very good friends after Dark Shadows ended. Well, he kind of disappeared for a while from everybody, and then he got in touch with his friends again. So it's good. It's a one-of-a-kind book. It really is. Nothing like this has ever been put out there before. There's lots of rare photos in there that never been published before. And some of the proceeds for the book is going to the John H. Frid Fund, part of the Hamilton Foundation in Canada, which is a charity that Jonathan donated to all of his life.
Okay. I have one last question for you. The new Dark Shadows movie, I think they waited too long to make it. What did he think of it all over?
He never saw. I mean, he didn't see it. He said Jonathan wasn't able to communicate by himself towards the end of his life. And I heard from his nephew. I talked with when Jonathan was fine with the film. He was fine with the concept of the film. He liked Johnny Depp, and he was fine with the concept, and he thought that Johnny Depp should make Barnabas his own. He thought that the movie shouldn't be like the original, otherwise what was the point in making it? And he thought they should do what they wanted with it. He said that was their right to do that. And he didn't, just like with the 1991 revival, he wasn't the least bit bothered that Ben Cross was doing a role he had done, because in the theater, that's done all the time. I mean, look at all the people who played Hamlet. I mean, he just didn't have that kind of ego. I mean, he didn't care. I know he would have been flabbergasted at all the hoopla in fandom about the movie. I mean, to him, it's just a movie. You go or you don't.
It's work. It's work.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But he said that they had the right to do what he wanted with it. It's their, he has the right.
It's work. Actors are working, and a working actor, that's all they care about. Actors are working, and it was a tip of the hat to the show that Burton and Depp loved, to run home from school to watch. And so, you can understand they were going to give it the little, as one of the chatters is saying, it was campy. But, in a way, I sit and look at it and think, wow, if they had done it a little bit different, they could have made sequels of that movie, gone back in time. They could have done a lot of things with it, but it was good. I know that the trip over there, Laura told me it was really rough on Jonathan. He was older. It was really, it's a 7-hour ride by plane.
Well, overall, it was a 20 hours he'd been on the go, because apparently it was a last minute tie. You need to leave like tomorrow or like in a day. It was that kind of thing. He got that kind of notice. And with Jonathan, he will not be moved. He will take his time. He does. He's a very smart man, but he didn't think fast. So he had to do things very methodically. So that takes a lot of time. And of course, he was already could get disoriented, and he got disoriented over there. So, I mean, it's amazing. I honestly couldn't think why he did it, to tell you the truth, to go through all that. But Guy Haynes, you may be familiar with Guy's name in fandom. He's been around forever in the fandom, and in this article, he wrote a really good article for this Frid, Remembering Jonathan Frid, and he pointed out in this article that the reason why Jonathan probably went through all that was because when he got down to it, he really did care about the fans, and he knew that it meant something to the fans to be in the movie.
Yeah, and I also think that because he was alive, and Laura was going to be there, and Nancy, what's her name, Catherine, and I think at the end of the day, it was kind of like we're supporting cast. I'm supporting the rest of the cast.
I don't think I was told, and I think Laura was the one who told me. I may be mistaken that they wouldn't have had them there unless Jonathan agreed.
Right. So he was taking it. He was taking it for the rest of the cast. He was. Yeah, and that's an amazing thing for a man in his 80s to be doing, so it just speaks volumes about him. Where can people read your blogs and your little snippets of life?
Well, I've got to get back blogging. They can find me on Facebook. They can follow me on Facebook.
Okay, and it's Nancy Kersey, Kersey.
Kersey. They have to look for my profile. My profile picture is of a cat that looks like the Bride of Frankenstein. There's lots of Nancy Kerseys actually on Facebook, but my picture has me living in Delaware, and the profile picture is out of a cat looking like the Bride of Frankenstein. So that's how they can find me. They're free to follow me there. Okay. And I also post, when I post on my blog, I post a link there too.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming on, and I'm so sorry last week we had the problems, and then whatever happened tonight, we had problems again. Maybe we made Jonathan a little happier and he didn't.
Maybe so. Well, it could be he just could be annoyed that he couldn't be a part of it and control everything.
Right, yeah, a control freak. And I'm married to one of those, so I know that feeling. I kidded him about that. I mean, that wasn't a secret. He liked me because I was irreverent. I mean, right. I would say things to him, tease him. I had no fear of teasing him, and he liked that. He really did. So yeah, I missed him. I missed that part of him, but that part of him kind of faded away. 2006 or so. So, but anyway, when he died, I told fans to be happy for him because he was not living the way he wanted to anymore, and it was time to go. He was done. Yeah,
he was done, and it was time. Yeah, it was time.
Yeah, it was time. I'm so sorry that you lost your cat last week. And let me just add that we have 2 looking for homes here.
No! No, I've got 5 other ones. I'm a foster failure, and I have a dog, and I have 2 hamsters. I can't even think about bringing another animal into my house.
I told the vet because my daughter keeps rescuing feral kittens and trying to find them homes and get them neutered and spayed and everything. And I am also a foster failure. And I'm up to 5 cats. The last one is the little kitten we have that's blind in one eye. I told the vet because when I took one of these feral cats to be spayed yesterday morning, they had kitten there that only had one eye. And I says, oh, it's up for adoption. And she says, yes, it is. And I said, look, Jesus Christ can't get in my house right now. I says, the inn is full. I says, so no more cats.
I help find homes for cats. I just don't bring them into my house first.
Yeah, because then you've got this bond, and you're afraid if you give them to somebody and they're not treated right, you know, you beat yourself up, you know, which is why I've got 5 cats.
yeah, same here. And the one who died last week was, you're not supposed to have a favorite, but that one was my favorite. You know, so it was just very sudden and very, very hard. I mean, I loved that dumb cat. She was just, she was just something special.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on, and I'm glad we finally got it all together, and I hope that the book is a big success.
I think it will be. A lot of pre-orders. We have lots of pre-orders already and everything. And sister, send me your home address so I can send you one, okay?
Oh, okay. Thank you. And all you have to do is hang up, and we're good to go. And when I get it up on Podomatic, I'll give you the link in Facebook. Probably be tomorrow.
You post it on all the groups. I know people might be interested. Thanks so much, and have a lovely evening.
Okay. God bless. Night-night.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
That was a very interesting conversation. To get that kind of insight and that kind of thing. I just want to play a little epilogue here to close out this part of the show. I have a lot of Halloween music and game stuff to play, so let me play this and it'll close out this part of our show.
Our revels now are ended. These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits and are melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which inherit it shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
There's no place like home. 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 There's no place like home.
This is Mo inviting you to visit me at my lair. Mo Banshee's Lair Visionary Talk Radio airs every Tuesday night live on GCRInternetradio.com. Tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. Topics A to Z, Mo Banshee's Lair on GCR Internet Radio. We're rocking your world.
Just try to stay out of my way. Just try. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.